In the summer of 2025, KFC shocked the world with what they did, but almost no one is talking about it. This isn't a menu stunt or a PR blip, it's a story that quietly folded an empire in on itself. Leaked chats, panic inspections, doors locked in broad daylight. And here's the part that should scare you. If it can happen there, what about where you live? Stay with me, because the receipts are real, the fallout is bigger than a social media apology, and the last question in this video might change how you look at every chain you trust. Something about this brand always felt invincible. The red bucket, the smiling colonel, a global machine that sells comfort by the billions. But behind the counters, there's a clock that never stops ticking. The clock on meat, on breading, on food safety. Most of us assume the system protects us. Audits, hygiene ratings, regulators. Today, we're going to test that assumption. We're going inside a scandal that didn't just catch a store or a city, it clipped an entire country. Before I show you what happened, let's set the table. Big chains live and die by consistency. That means manuals, training, time logs, labels, temperature checks. When those fail, you see the usual mess. Grime in the vents, pests in the corners, mislabeled tubs in the walk-in. Annoying? Yes. Viral? No. What turns messy restaurant into shock to the world is intent. When corners aren't just cut, but hidden. When food doesn't just get mishandled, but made to look fresh when it isn't. That line is where the story flips. Here's how the first domino tipped. Investigators began hearing the same whispers from different places. Whispers about dates, not calendar dates, expiration dates, food that should have been binned, labels that should have meant stop, and instead, something else. You'll see the word they used for it. It's a word that sounds harmless, almost bureaucratic. But it's the kind of word that, if true, turns a kitchen into a minefield. Then, all at once, the spotlight hit. A mobile inspection sweep. Every location on a national map checked within days. Hygiene ratings? Not the smiling kind the marketing team likes to print. Doors? Some closing, some pretending to be open while the ground fell out beneath them. And the word from inside those chats? Extending, as in, extend the date. So here's the reveal. This didn't happen to a single rogue franchisee in the middle of nowhere. It happened in Denmark, across the country. In June 2025, according to the public broadcaster DR, inspectors visited 11 restaurants across Denmark under the same franchise network. None received the top hygiene rating, and several were slapped with the worst marks you can get. Reports mentioned filthy residues, mishandled food, and then the allegation that lit the fuse. In a DR investigation, former employees alleged that internal group chats described extending chicken expiration dates. Let that sink in. Not bad cleaning, not sloppy storage. A system of pretending old was new. That's not a smudge, that's a crack. If you think, okay, they'll clean up and move on, they didn't. The franchise agreement in Denmark was terminated. Imagine that. Corporate stepping in and effectively saying, you're done. Within weeks, the company behind the Danish outlets, Iskin APS, filed for bankruptcy that July. A whole market gone. Not, we'll reopen tomorrow. Not, new manager coming, gone. And the question that keeps me up is simple. How does a brand that size let it get that far? But here's the disturbing part. The story didn't end at Denmark's border. In the months after, other countries started asking hard questions. Former staff in one European market described similar pressures. Again, whispering about dates, labels, time. Whether every allegation sticks or not, the pattern is the point. When one country's entire map fails a hygiene test on the same day, and leaks suggest the date game was part of the culture, people start wondering, how many other markets are one inspection blitz away from the same headline? If you're still here, you're part of the 1% who actually want the receipts, the real stories hiding behind the logos. Hit subscribe, because what comes next hits a lot closer to home. And this is where the video stops being about them and becomes about us. Let's talk about the United States, because if you're watching this from the US, you're probably thinking, we're fine, different rules, strong regulators. True on paper. In practice, pull up local inspections and you'll find pages of chains cited for the same recurring sins: grease-choked vents, soiled equipment, improper hot holding, flies in the prep area, even the occasional roach greeting the inspector. That doesn't prove Danish-level fraud is here, but it shows the guardrails aren't bulletproof. All it takes is one market manager who says, "Don't waste product," and one shift lead who knows what that really means. In one Midwestern state, inspectors once documented a dozen food safety violations in a single location, including expired product in cold storage. And in recent years, the US FDA and state agencies have reported fewer routine restaurant inspections in some regions, partly due to budget limits. Less oversight means more faith, and faith is fragile. Let's rewind to that word, extending. Harmless on a spreadsheet, devastating in a fryer. Why would anyone do it? Pressure. Food costs are brutal. Wastage is the silent killer of margins. If you're a manager who needs to hit targets, the math tempts you. It was stored right. It looks fine. Just a few hours. And suddenly the label that protected the customer becomes a suggestion. That's how these scandals are born. Not with a cartoon villain twirling a mustache, but with hundreds of tiny exceptions that become normal. Now, imagine being the person on that shift. That's the moment where systems either save us or fail us. And in Denmark, the system failed loudly. Okay, you might say, but if it's that bad, wouldn't people get sick? Not necessarily. Foodborne illness is messy. Symptoms can hit hours or days later. Most people don't report. Most doctors don't link a bland stomach bug to that bucket yesterday. Outbreaks get attention when patterns cluster or pathogens spike. The scarier danger is the quiet one. A million near misses that never make the news because the product was old but not deadly, mishandled but not catastrophic, gross but survivable. Those teach the worst lesson in the world, that cheating works. Here's where the brand's response matters. Public statements said the alleged behavior didn't comply with corporate standards. Franchise agreements were pulled, retraining would happen, audits would tighten. On paper, that's what you want to hear. But accountability isn't a press release, it's a dashboard. Are there random sweeps, surprise temp checks, lot number reconciliation that flags impossible inventory math? Is there a hotline that crew actually trust? Because in every scandal, there's a second scandal, the one where employees tried to speak up and were told to shut up. If you don't fix that, you don't fix anything. Let's zoom back out. Why did an entire country's footprint fail hygiene ratings in one go? Part of it is how Denmark inspects, transparent smiley face ratings that turn a bad kitchen into front page news. Part of it is media actually reading the reports. Part of it is, frankly, luck. The right leak at the right time. But part of it is structural. Big chains rely on local franchisees, and local operators have wildly different cultures. When corporate looks the other way because sales are okay, rot grows in the dark. A country losing its entire footprint overnight is a signal, not a blip. Within weeks, commentators and some policymakers were publicly asking what Brussels was doing about multinational food chain oversight. That's not social media drama, that's policy attention. So where does this leave us? Besides suddenly craving a salad, it leaves us with a choice. We can shrug and keep the bucket spinning, or we could demand receipts. If you're a customer, look up inspection grades before you eat. If you're staff, document and date everything. If someone tells you to extend, ask for that in writing. Spoiler, they won't. If you're corporate, here's the free playbook. Randomize audits, rotate auditors, tie bonuses to hygiene scores, protect whistleblowers, and then do the brave thing. Publish your own numbers. If they're bad, fix them. If they're good, prove it. Trust isn't what you say, it's what your data shows. Scandals like this don't start with malice, they start with drift. A tiny compromise during a staffing crunch. Just this once workaround when a delivery is late. A regional leader who reads the cost line and not the discard log. Drift is slow, silent, and easy to normalize, until a national sweep catches everything at once. If Denmark taught us anything, it's this. Drift doesn't stay local, it becomes culture. Will this happen again? Somewhere, yes. Maybe not with this brand, But pressure plus opacity always finds a crack. So what did KFC do that shocked the world? In one country, across every location, they failed the most basic test a kitchen can take, and reports of leaked messages suggested a practice that shouldn't exist anywhere near food. Because comfort food is only comfortable when you can trust the hands that cooked it. And trust is a date you never, ever extend. If you want more exposés of everyday industries, more stories of logos, labels, and lies, subscribe and stay with us. This isn't business as usual. This is the shadow market.